The Bible actually is a copyrighted book. It's interesting to find out who owns the copyright on the Bible. Who owns the copyright? Who wrote this Bible? And where did it come from? And who put up the money to make it the most important book ever published on the earth, that everybody has a copy of it in their language? Why is it so important? It has to do with the promotion of an ancient secret society and their particular agenda that they have for the world. They were the people behind Adolf Hitler, who were promoting the new world order. And then comes in America, the Bushes with their new world order. And the Vatican talking about the coming of a new earth, a new world. And the whole new world order is an old ancient philosophy going back into the ancient world. And it has nothing to do with any people called Israel. The whole area we call today Israel is actually Canaan. And you will find that the Canaanites had a particular language called Phoenician. And the word Phoenician, going back to the ancient Phoenician peoples of the Middle East, give us today the Phoenician language is referred to as Hebrew. In fact, there is no Hebrew language. There is a Hebrew people that speak a language that we call them Hebrews, and therefore we say that they're speaking Hebrew. It's not Hebrew. It's a Phoenician Canaanite language. And we get the word Phoenician gives us our word phony. It comes from Phoenician. Phony and the phonics and words like that comes from Phoenician. So go back and look at the Phoenician people, and you will see that what we call Phoenicia is today referred to as Israel. Israel is the ancient land of Canaan in the Bible. You talk about all the horrible things that were going on in the land of Canaan. And that God cursed the land of Canaan and said it was a terrible place and to have nothing to do with it. That's in the Bible, the Old Testament. Well, Canaan today is called Israel. Israel is the land of Canaan today. And this is why this is when you get into the words and terms of where these words come from, and the incredible story about the Canaanite religion. The priest of Canaan, they would offer up sacrifices. Usually it was children. They would burn as a sacrifice. They would kill the children and burn their bodies on an altar. And then, according to the Canaanite religion, they said they were worshiping the sun. And the Canaanites called the sun Baal, B-A-A-L, Baal. Baal worship was the worship of the sun in the land of Canaan. Go back and look at it. Today, we say that we know that the priests of Canaan who were worshiping Baal, B-A-A-L, Baal as the sun, they were Baal worshippers, and they would offer up human sacrifice. They would kill children and people and then burn their bodies, but they were supposed to eat part of the burned bodies. They were burning the bodies so that God could smell the flesh. He liked smelling burnt flesh. And this is what we're told in the Canaanite religion, that God says, I love the smell of your sacrifices. The sacrifices were humans, so when they're burning humans on the altar, God loved the smell of human bodies burning. And so that's where we get this idea that they were Baal worshippers, were eating the bodies of their sacrifices. And so they were from Canaan. And so they were Baal worshippers from Canaan, which gives us our word Cannibal or cannibal. Cannibal comes from Canaan worshippers of worshiping Baal, Cannibal, cannibals. And this is what we call today Israel. Israel is the land of Canaan Baal worship, the sun god. The sun being B-A-A-L, Baal, or swastika, or tetragramma, Aton. All of this goes back to the sun worship, moon worship, Venus worship, the worship of the planet Saturn, the worship of the moon. All of these are ancient pagan religions, and nobody today gives a damn. Nobody seems to care. We just go along to get along, and whatever everybody else is doing, that's what we'll do. Everybody's going to the synagogue. We'll all go to the synagogue too. Nobody seems to know when they get there where the word synagogue comes from. Everybody's going to church. We all Christians going to church. You don't know where the word church comes from. You need to go back and get a dictionary and look at the words and what you are supposedly involving yourself in, because you're involving yourself in a dark, ancient secret. And this is why the world is not getting any better, because we are based on lies, deception. There is no such a thing as an ancient Israel. There is no Lord coming back to save us. These are all ancient stories.
So the listener wants to know that basically, because there are these constant controversies, which, for those of you on the other side of the pod, controversies, that keep emerging from the Catholic Church regarding, the predator priests, taking advantage of children. Is there something in their literature that, what is the word they're using here, that makes,
causes this kind of reaction?
Yeah, yes. Basically that's yes. What it is. Is there something in their literature that yes. makes this seem to be something that won't go away? Is there something in the organization, in the yes. organizational principles that promote this kind of behavior? That's the word yes. he used. Okay. Yes. That promote this kind of behavior, because it seems to, they point out that although many religious figures are caught quite often in this sort of pattern of behavior, that it seems to be a disease within the Catholic organization, seemingly more than others. And they're wondering if there's a specific reason for that. That's the whole question. They want to know what your viewpoint is on whether this is something that is built in to the Catholic Church and therefore promotes that sort of behavior.
Okay, I have an answer for that. I don't know if you're ready for this answer, but you said it was a very controversial subject. Well, I'm going to give you a really controversial answer.
Okay.
Actually, if you do the research, if you really sincerely want to spend weeks and months and years, as I have, going through the biblical accounts in the Bible, and then looking at the flow of religion from the three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all three are based on a far more ancient religion we call Hinduism. But if you start to look at the esoteric hidden connections of the belief systems of the three major religions today, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all three major religions today are based on the worship of sex, period. End of sentence. And when you begin to look into the biblical dictionaries and encyclopedias and really start to devote years of your life to studying the words and the terms and the symbols in religion, you will find that the all three major religions and probably most of the religions of the world are all actually based on the worship of sex, period.
Okay, but Jordan, I've got to stop you here for one reason.
But that's a fact of life that can be proven in a court.
No, and I believe you, but I got to stop you for one reason only. If I were, now I'm just going to speak from my heart, from my position, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I were to become obsessed with sex, okay, I would chase women, Jordan. I would clearly just chase women. I mean, this is what I would do. Okay, I'm that kind of guy. This is something else, though, because this is the preying on upon children. And I got to say that, you hear stories about cult leaders, and they take on many wives, and they have, harems, and they have, these group marriages and whatever else. And people do this. They become obsessed with sexuality, and sexuality could be throughout this entire thing, but it almost seems like there's something darker than just that going on, because you hear the argument now and then, well, gee, if they just let priests marry, then they wouldn't have this problem. I don't buy that.
No.
Because there's something worse happening here. When you're talking about the preying upon children, victimizing children, that to me is not, it's not part of the same equation as sex being pushed forward. I mean, yes, we do hear about, there have been popes who've had children. There have been cardinals who've had children with women. They've had relationships. They've had mistresses. You talked about the nuns and how they, came into the equation. But this whole thing with children, it's got to be a different animal than just sex, Jordan, doesn't it?
It's absolutely different. I mean, a different animal, but nonetheless, it is still sex. And I am telling you that if you look at the history of all three of the major religions, it's just profoundly filled with scriptures talking about sex with children, sex with kids, young children. Judaism is filled with it. Christianity is filled with it, and especially Islam. Islam, you can actually rent a little 5 or 7 or 8 year old girl for a night, and it's referred to as a marriage. And you pay the family a marriage price, and then they will give you the permission, and the religion gives you permission, and there's a particular word for it, which it slips my mind right now. But in Islam, you can rent a little 7 or 8 year old for the night, and it's called a marriage, and it's a whole ritual, a little ritual that you go through, and you are actually married to the 7-year-old, an 8 or 9 year old, and then you can live like you're married with that child, and then the next day at a certain time you have to bring them back, and the marriage is annulled. But that's actually in the religion. You can actually rent a child for the night, and it becomes an actual marriage. And there's a term that is used in Islam that denotes that you are merely renting the child for the night and having a marriage, a legitimate, de jure, real marriage, but just for tonight. And you pay the price, and you pay the family. And that's perfectly permitted within within Islam. So when you see all of these older men marrying little girls, go on the web and you will see it in the Middle East, where they have massive weddings with 30, 40 young men marrying little girls 5, 6, 7 years old. And they have massive marriages where these grown men are marrying 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, but that's the Islam. That's the religion of Islam. Period. I don't care if you don't like it, but that's the name of the tune. And then, of course, when you get into Judaism, my God, there's all kinds of stuff in the Jewish religion about especially in the old Jewish philosophies and the religion that they don't talk about today, but it's in the different religious books of the Jews today. But the Jews don't make a big advertisement about it. But it's there if you want to go back and start reading in the Jewish literature about how the rabbis said it's perfectly fine for an adult man to have sex and to live with a 7-year-old or 5-year-old, whatever, and if it's a male or female, it doesn't matter. And sex is sex. It doesn't matter if it's male or female. And to have sex with a 5-year-old, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. That's in the Jewish scriptures. That's in the Jewish Talmud. And it goes on to talk about the difference that people may think are bad and wrong, but in point of fact, in the Talmud talks about if a man has sex with a boy 6 or 8 years old, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not considered anything evil at all because the boy doesn't know the difference. So there's nothing, no one's been harmed by it. That's in Judaism. That is the Jewish religion today. Go back and read it. Go back and get the old Jewish books, the Talmud and the Babylonian, or the Babylonian Talmud in particular, and read it. Read what it says in English. And it talks about grown men having sex with little girls, 5, 6, 7 years old. Nothing wrong with that at all, period. That's part of the religion. Well, then you come to the Catholic Church and Christianity. Well, my God, if you go back into the history of Christianity, with all the stories about Moses and all the sexual stuff that's going on in the church during the early Middle Ages, during the founding, especially after 325 with the coming of the Vatican, when there were children who were slaves, they were brought in, and it's a whole mindset in religion today of the interest that adults have in the youth and the beauty of young children. And so, but it's actually a part of the religion of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three are replete, if you will take the time and read their ancient books of all three major religions. You will find everywhere in the old scriptures, in the old Jewish scriptures, I was talking about sex with children. Sex with children. You can get married to a little 5 or 7-year-old for the night. My God, I mean, it's all there if you just want to take time and go back and read the stuff yourself and stop thinking in terms of being all holy and righteousness. You better go back and find out what these religions really are doing and what they really came from and what they're actually promoting. And that's why today the world is now completely overwhelmed by pedophilia and sex with children, because that's the basis for all three, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. You don't like that? Go back and do the research yourself, and you will find I'm exactly correct.